Hello, everyone. Welcome back, and thank you for joining us today. We have a brand new story to share with you, so let's get started. My name is Jay, and for 5 years, I believed I was a happily married man. My wife, Lisa, and I had what many would call a stable and healthy relationship. We supported each other, rarely fought, and built a life together that felt comfortable and secure. Isn't that what marriage is supposed to be? A partnership where you grow together, trust each other, and navigate life side by side? That's what I thought, until recently. It began with subtle changes, the kind of shifts that are easy to dismiss as stress or exhaustion. At first, I barely noticed them. Lisa seemed distant, but I chalked it up to her workload. I told myself that every relationship goes through phases, and that whatever was off would eventually correct itself. But as weeks turned into months, those minor shifts turned into glaring red flags. Lisa had always been affectionate. In the past, she would greet me with a warm embrace when I came home from work, sometimes even pulling me into a slow, lingering kiss. It always made me feel wanted, like she had truly missed me. But lately, her kisses had turned into quick pecks, the kind you give out of obligation rather than desire. They were cold, impersonal, and distant. Conversations that once flowed effortlessly between us now felt forced. We used to talk about anything and everything, our words intertwining as naturally as our lives had. Now, she barely engaged. When I asked about her day, her answers were clipped and indifferent, void of warmth. The laughter, the teasing, the playful moments that once defined our bond had disappeared. It was as if we were no longer a couple, just two people coexisting in the same space. Then came the mood swings. One moment, Lisa was lost in thought, staring off into space. The next, she was snapping at me over something trivial. If I asked if she was okay, she would dismiss me with a curt, "I'm fine." But I knew she wasn't fine. The more I tried to rationalize her behavior, the more uneasy I became. I thought back to our early years, when love felt effortless, when we whispered our dreams to each other late into the night, when we were a team. But now, she was pulling away, like a tide receding from the shore. I didn't want to lose her, so I tried harder. I planned date nights, made an effort to check in on her emotionally, and even took on extra responsibilities around the house, hoping to ease her stress. But nothing changed. She remained distant, cold, and indifferent to my efforts. One night, as we lay in bed, the silence between us felt heavier than ever. It had been months since we had been intimate, and I couldn't understand why. I spent hours reading articles, browsing relationship advice forums, and searching for ways to reconnect. One thing kept coming up: physical touch. Experts claimed that intimacy could help rekindle emotional closeness. It made sense. We had barely touched each other in weeks. No warm hugs, no lingering touches, just those empty, obligatory kisses. So I decided to try something simple. I reached out and gently took her hand, hoping that this small gesture might break through the wall she had built around herself. But the second my fingers brushed against hers, she jerked away as if I had burned her. "Just leave me alone," she said coldly. Her words sent a sharp pang through my chest, but I wasn't ready to give up. "Lisa, talk to me," I pleaded. "What's wrong? Did I do something?" She didn't move. She didn't even turn to look at me. She just lay there, rigid and silent, as if waiting for me to stop. Desperate for any kind of response, I reached out again, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. That's when she snapped. "Don't touch me. I can't stand you," she spat, her voice sharper than I had ever heard it before. Her words hit me like a sledgehammer. My entire body tensed as if I had been physically struck. I searched her face, hoping to see regret, a flicker of hesitation. Anything to indicate that she didn't mean what she had just said. But there was nothing, just cold, detached disgust. I couldn't even respond. My mind shut down. I rolled onto my back and stared at the ceiling, numb. For the first time since we got married, I wasn't sure if we could ever fix this. And a part of me was beginning to wonder if I even wanted to try anymore. I stopped asking questions. Not because I didn't want answers, but because I already knew I wasn't going to get them. It felt like I had become nothing more than a roommate, a stranger in my own marriage. So instead of pushing for explanations, I started watching. In the days that followed, I noticed more things. Lisa started falling asleep in random places. At the dining table with her head resting on her arms, on the couch in the middle of the afternoon, her phone still clutched in her hand. That wasn't like her. Lisa had never been the type to doze off like that. Then, there were the mornings. She looked exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. Sometimes, she would rush to the bathroom first thing in the morning, and I'd hear the toilet flush minutes later, like she had been sick. But the most concerning part? She was leaving the house more often. Lisa had never been secretive before. If she had plans, she would tell me where she was going and who she was with. But lately, she would just disappear. I would come home to an empty house with no explanation. When she returned, hours later, she acted as if nothing had happened. And if I asked where she had been, she would brush it off, making me feel ridiculous for even questioning her. I considered following her. I wanted to know the truth, but I wasn't sure I could do it properly. So I hired a private investigator. A week later, I got the call. "We have confirmation," the investigator said. And just like that, everything made sense. Lisa was seeing someone else. That was why she had been distant. That was why she couldn't look at me anymore. I could have confronted her. I could have thrown the evidence in her face, demanded answers, and watched her squirm under the weight of her own betrayal. But I didn't, because at that moment, I realized something else. Lisa had already made her choice. She had already decided that I wasn't enough. And I wasn't about to beg a woman to love me when she had already given her love to someone else. No, she didn't deserve a fight. She deserved to be blindsided. And right then, I made my decision. I had made up my mind. I was going to divorce her, and I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. The decision had been simmering in my mind for weeks. Fueled by a gnawing sense of betrayal, I couldn't quite put my finger on. That evening, the house was eerily quiet when I walked in. I had left work early, determined to find a crucial document my lawyer had been requesting for days, one that would set the wheels of the divorce in motion. I had been putting off searching for it, perhaps out of reluctance to acknowledge the inevitable, but tonight I was done hesitating. I strode purposefully to our bedroom, heading straight to my side closet where I kept all my important paperwork. Pulling out folders, flipping through pages of old receipts, and shuffling through bank statements, I searched with mounting frustration. Nothing. A sigh escaped me as I ran a tired hand over my face. Maybe I had misplaced it somewhere else. Then an unsettling thought crept in. What if Lisa had accidentally placed it among her things? It wouldn't have been the first time when my belongings ended up on her side of the closet. Without much thought, I turned to her section and started going through her things. I wasn't expecting to find anything other than my missing document, but what I did find knocked the air from my lungs. Tucked away inside a plain white envelope was a pregnancy scan result. My fingers trembled as I pulled the paper out, my heart pounding so fiercely it echoed in my ears. The details on the scan confirmed it. Lisa was pregnant. For a moment, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. She never told me. Why? My eyes darted to the date on the ultrasound, my brain scrambling to put the pieces together. Over a month along. My mind raced through the past few weeks, her distance, her coldness, the way she snapped at me for no reason, how she had looked at me with something close to disdain. Was this the reason? And then a far more terrifying thought lodged itself into my brain. Could the baby even be mine? I couldn't sit on this information. I couldn't pretend I didn't know. The rest of that evening passed in a haze, my thoughts spiraling into something darker than anger. My world had tilted off its axis, and all I could do was wait for her to walk through that door, so I could demand the truth. The sound of keys rattling at the front door jolted me back. Lisa walked in, completely unaware of the storm awaiting her. She was scrolling through her phone, barely glancing up as she stepped inside. I didn't give her a chance to settle. How long have you known you were pregnant? The words shot from my mouth before I could even consider softening them. Lisa froze mid-step, her entire body locking up as though she had been caught in a trap. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, She swallowed and, in a whisper barely audible, said, I was preparing to tell you. I laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and humorless. Preparing? I repeated, rising from the couch, every muscle in my body taut with tension. Why the hell would you need preparation to tell your husband that you're pregnant? Then, before I could stop myself, I said the one thing I fear the most. Or is the baby not mine? The split second of hesitation in her eyes was all the confirmation I needed. Lisa forced herself to recover, straightening her posture. Of course, it's yours. I didn't believe her. Not for a second. I stepped closer, my voice dropping to a dangerous calm. We'll do a DNA test. She broke. A choked, broken sob escaped her as she crumpled under the weight of her own guilt. I don't know who the father is. The words weren't just a confession. They were a death sentence to everything we had built together. For months, I had felt something was wrong. I had questioned my own sanity, wondering if I was imagining things, if I was overreacting. But this was the confirmation I never wanted. I exhaled slowly, forcing my voice to remain steady. Get ready, I said coldly. The divorce papers will be ready soon. Lisa dropped to her knees, sobbing, begging me to reconsider, to give her a chance to explain. But I didn't care anymore. There was nothing left to explain. She didn't make the divorce easy. At first, she cried, pleaded, tried to appeal the love we once shared. But when she realized I wasn't budging, she got angry. She fought. She dragged the process out in court, making it as painful as possible. She wanted the house. She demanded spousal support. She argued that 5 years of marriage meant she deserved something substantial. I let my lawyer handle it. I refused to engage. I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of seeing me struggle. Then came the DNA test. When the results confirmed the baby wasn't mine, she shut down completely. No more fake justifications. No more fights over assets. She had nothing left to stand on. The court sided with me. She walked away with nothing significant. I don't regret leaving. Not for a second. If I had stayed, if I had let her manipulate me, I would have been raising another man's child, trapped in a lie I never signed up for. By the time the divorce was finalized, I had already emotionally checked out. The fights, the drawn-out legal battles, they had drained me completely. It wasn't until months later that I learned the full truth of Lisa's affair. Through mutual friends and scraps of information that surfaced during the proceedings, I pieced it all together. When Lisa discovered she was pregnant, she went to her lover, the man she had risked everything for. She expected him to step up, to prove that she hadn't thrown away her marriage for nothing. Maybe, deep down, she hoped he would tell her they could be a real family. But reality hit her hard. He didn't want the baby. He told her, flat out, to get rid of it. He wasn't ready. He didn't want the responsibility. He wasn't about to rearrange his life for her. And that's when Lisa snapped. Instead of blaming herself for her choices, instead of facing the fact that she had made the worst mistake of her life, she let her anger fester. And she turned it on me. She wasn't disgusted by me. She was disgusted by herself. But by the time I realized this, it didn't matter anymore. By then, I had already walked away. And for that, I am grateful. If I had ignored the signs, I could have been raising another man's child right now. That's the reality some men choose to overlook. They ignore the gut feeling when something feels off. They convince themselves their wife or girlfriend is just going through a phase, that things will go back to normal. But let me tell you something. If someone doesn't want you, you'll feel it. I felt it, and I'm glad I listened. It's better to be divorced than to raise a child born from betrayal. That's my truth. That's my lesson. And if you've made it this far into the story, I want to hear from you. Would you have handled it differently? Would you have forgiven her? Or would you have walked away, knowing you deserve better? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. And if you found this story worth sharing, hit that like button, subscribe, and send it to someone who might need to hear this today. Thanks for watching. Until next time,